Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
So, if you got doubts about what's going to happen if you don't deliver, let me tell you something. I made gravy out of your little girl just to season that black Irish cocksucker's meat.
All right, welcome to the first episode in our very special series that the Manster came up with called Depptember. That's right, we are not doing September here in the Pint world. We are living in Depptember. My name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And Johnny Depp, man, right? We're talking, what was it? Did you want to talk Johnny Depp, or did you just like the sound of the, because I'm fine with either one. I like both.
I don't recall, did we ever do a Johnny Depp movie?
We did with Forgotten Cinema. We did Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which he's a part of.
Okay, that's right. And we did Tusk, right?
That's right. Two
that
movies
might be a spoiler.
Two movies. Yeah, exactly. Two movies that he's not the star of, but he's in. And Tusk, like you said, might be a spoiler because, he's like disguised. So, yeah.
So, no, I like Johnny Depp. I've always liked him ever since, 21 Jump Street.
Yeah, me too.
And when I was coming up with possible names, because, secret out here in the Pint land, sometimes we just come up with a name of a concept and then figure it out.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm not going to kid you. Van Damuary was the same way.
Right.
I don't know why, but I just thought of the word Van Damuary and said, well, I guess we have to do 4 Van Damme movies in January.
And that's it. Yep. You can't deny it.
A couple of factoids about the gentleman who you might all know very recently is having some marital problems, who pooped the bed, all that stuff. But before that, there was a young man born John Christopher. And here's the crazy part. Depp, his real last name is Depp. It's not just like a cool sounding last name.
Remember the hair gel, the Depp hair gel?
Deputy Do and all that. Yeah. John Christopher Depp the second. So his dad is Johnny Depp, 1. He was born on June 9th, 1963. Lloyd, he's older than you, right?
He's older than me. Yep.
That makes him 60 years old this year. Let's see. He was born in Owensboro, Kentucky, so he's a Kentucky boy. And as a young guy, his family moved to Miramar, Florida. And eventually, and we'll get into little Depp facts a little bit further as we go in these episodes, but eventually he was in a band and they moved to California. And that's kind of how he got started in the Hollywood scene before he became an actor. I found this. Here's a factoid about Johnny Depp I found interesting, is that he claims that his grandmother was Cherokee or, I think he said, Comanche Indian, claiming that there was a large, population of those native people in Kentucky, way back when. But the problem is he's never had proof, to that. And amongst a lot of Native American leaders, tribal leaders and folks like that, they actually have issues with Johnny Depp over that. And I've never heard this word before, but we live in Connecticut. We live in a place where there's a lot of Native American casinos, and there's always talk of like people who claim to be in the tribe because they're trying to get like the money and everything, but they don't have the proof. So what these Native American leaders call people that do that, and they call Johnny Depp this, is a pretendian. I have never heard that before.
I've never heard it.
That is a Native American term for people that claim Native American heritage.
Wasn't there a character like that in the Scalped books by Jason Aaron?
Diesel engine.
Yeah, Diesel. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then I think they found out in the
It was
end,
like 1/16 or something.
he had 1/16 and he hooked it on that, but because he was white, everybody else just like blew him off. Yeah, diesel engine. Awesome.
I could believe from his look anyway that he could be Native American heritage.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's, look, here's the problem, right? Like,
this thing called 23andMe. It's easy.
That's it. And maybe he had a lot of problems last year. Maybe he didn't have time to jerk off in a cup or whatever you do, sweat on a rag and have someone figure out if you're Cherokee Indian.
The jerk off in a cup, that's the extra bonus that you can get.
Yeah. Just so somebody can say I got Johnny Depp's jism in a cup.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the first movie we're going to be talking about.
Start the diesel, all head forward!
So today we're talking about Nick of Time. Now, before I get into all the release date and everything, I think this is one that you have to kind of put out there. This is a movie with a gimmick, right, Lloyd? What's the gimmick to this film?
The gimmick is it takes place in real time from start to finish. The duration of the movie is the duration of the action that you see.
Yep, if you discount for credits, in several scenes where they're talking about like this is happening in 15 minutes or blah, blah, blah. I did it several times. If you look at the time counter, it essentially works out to what it would be. You just have to remember to minus like credits, like the end credits, because it's going to go longer. But yeah, it's right there on the bubble. It's a 90-minute film and the action takes place within 90 minutes of time. So this came out on November 22nd of 1995. It was directed by John Badham, English director who directed War Games, directed Saturday Night Fever, and also directed a film we did earlier this year, again with the guys from Forgotten Cinema, Blue Thunder. So that's John Badham, written by a guy named Patrick Sheen Duncan. He wrote a couple movies you might know, Mr. Holland's Opus and Courage Under Fire, which was a Denzel Washington film. And in 2016, he wrote and released a novel. The title has me interested, Dracula versus Hitler. Dracula versus Hitler, yeah.
Oh, I would definitely check that out.
Yeah, it definitely sounds worth checking out. This was filmed between April and June of 1995 in downtown LA, almost entirely in the Westin Bonaventura Hotel and Suites, which is located, if you're in LA, at 404 South Figueroa Street in LA, California. And if you remember, if you want to go back way, way back to when we did with the Forgotten Cinema guys, I think you were off on this one, Midnight Madness. Did you do that with us, Lloyd?
No, I did that one. Sure.
Yes. That's right. Because we did Phantom Menace too. That's where the movie ends. Midnight Madness is when everything comes together in the hotel. It's the same hotel.
Oh, it ends there.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
With those like outside elevators and everything.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's everything I got for it. What do we got for? Well, were you waving at me or no?
No, I got a little bug in here.
Oh, I thought you were waving at me. All right, that's all I got for that information. Lloyd, what do we got going on for cast?
Round up the usual suspects.
Well, for cast, first of all, we have Johnny Depp. If I recall, we put out a poll, right?
Yeah.
We put a bunch of movies on there, and this was on there. And I remember we had 3 clear winners. Is this the one that we picked just because?
No, we picked... Oh, you know what? Yes. This is the one we picked just because. We had 3 clear winners and a couple that were tied.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I said to you, why don't we do Secret Window because you're a King fan,
right? And
you picked this one for whatever reason.
And I said no, let's do Nick of Time because he's basically an everyman in this, and I like to see Johnny Depp clearly has a career built upon quirky characters,
right?
And this is not that at all.
The opposite.
So, I wanted to see how, let's talk about something where he's just a normal guy.
Right.
And so he plays Gene Watson. He's a public accountant tasked with killing the governor-elect. I forget her name at this point, but Marcia Mason. And then we have Christopher Walken. I can't do it, Christopher Walken. Man, I wish I could do him. As Mr. Smith. He's an agent of some sort. We don't really know at first, who finds Watson, Johnny Depp's character, and orders him to kill the governor.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. He's some kind of criminal that is orchestrating this whole thing, or he's not orchestrating.
At first, we think he's a cop.
Yes,
he says
he's not orchestrating it, but he's put in charge of making sure it happens.
Right. and very random picking of the accomplice. I'm going to go a little out of order as far as the credits go, but his partner in the movie is played by Roma Mafia as Ms. Jones. His partner in crime, and basically throughout the movie, she has the daughter.
Yeah, I wanted to punch her in the mouth every time she was on screen. She's got a punchable face.
Very, very. You might remember her from Internal Affairs, Disclosure, and Eraser.
Yeah, I remember her in Eraser. I don't remember the other two.
Schwarzenegger, yeah. Next, we have Charles S. Dutton as Huey. He's a shoe shine guy who basically shines Johnny Depp's shoes and has a little hand in helping out in the end. You'll remember him from Rock on TV, Alien 3, Menace to Society, and Rudy. Remember he was the...
Yeah, you're 5 foot nothing.
Yeah, 5 foot nothing. Then we have Marsha Mason as Governor Eleanor Grant, the soon-to-be victim of Johnny Depp's or Christopher Walken, Mr. Smith's plan. So Marsha Mason, she's like from the 60s. She started coming up around then. Married to Neil Simon in the 70s. Golden Globe winner for Goodbye Girl, in Heartbreak Ridge. She did a bunch of TV stuff. So Frasier, Grace and Frankie, and I don't know, a bunch of other things.
Still around. Yeah, still around.
Yeah, still around. Then we have Peter Strauss as Brendan Grant, and he plays the governor's husband. Now, a lot of TV stuff, a lot of 80s and 70s TV stuff. Streets of San Francisco, Barnaby Jones, Mary Tyler Moore Show, countless others. And he was in some other movie I just mentioned. I can't remember.
I'm 99.9% sure, like 100% sure, that he was the star of a film that I did a video episode of with Stu and Joe, SFA 80s, back when we were doing those Jess's videos, Space Hunter. I'm 90. Yeah, okay, that is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Space Hunter. And then we have who we've talked about before, Gloria Rubin as Krista Brooks. That is the Governor Grant's assistant. You'll remember her from our Time Cop episode in Van Damuary.
Oh, holy cow! A Van Damuary Depptember crossover. Oh,
yeah, she's that girl that you recognize and you don't ever remember where you recognize.
I truly, until I've seen this movie a couple times, truly until you said that, I didn't remember that's her. That's awesome.
Right. The only thing you may remember was she is in ER. She had a recurring role in that. She was also in Homicide: Life on the Street. Shout out. In the earlier version of the Flash TV show.
Wow. No, Larry definitely will remember she's in ER because Larry watched ER like three times over, I think.
And G.D. Spradlin as a lobbyist, the mystery man, I guess.
That's what he's credited as, right?
Yeah, mystery man. Yeah. Basically, he seems to be the guy who conceives the plot to assassinate the governor. We don't really know this, though. There's nothing that really tells us that.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, he's an older gentleman. He was also in another Depptember movie that we'll be talking about, Ed Wood, in the previous year to this one. Apocalypse Now, North Dallas 40. I remember him from that. The Long Kiss Goodnight. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, his name's familiar. He looked familiar, but like what I couldn't remember from.
Yeah. And then I don't know if this girl ever did anything afterwards. Courtney Chase as Lynn Watson, the daughter of Gene Watson, Johnny Depp.
I don't think she did, but when I was doing my research on this, I looked her up, and I think it said she's like 37 with 2 kids, and that made me feel so fucking old. Because she's literally like 7 years old in this movie. Yeah. And but you got to remember, I think even though we know our age, we tend to forget like this is like 30 years old. Like,
right.
Just about. Yeah.
Right. And then a lot of people we're talking to, might be a little younger than that. And one other, let's see if you can think of the last guy that I'm going to mention. He shows up very briefly.
Okay, are you going to mention the guy that was in Seinfeld, the guy that works in the hotel?
I don't think so. No, not that guy.
Okay, because I just want to point this out. There's a guy in the movie who works in the hotel who at one point Johnny Depp's character switches clothes with. He is from Seinfeld. He's the gay guy that, like, the gay bully guy that keeps on... he steals the armoire from Kramer.
In the parade with the
Yes.
Oh, my God.
That's the dude.
That.
Okay, all right. So I don't know. Who are you going to say?
The last guy I'm going to say is yet another person from Homicide: Life on the Street. They call him in the credits Hackney Transportist. He was basically the cabbie that he got into.
Okay.
Clark Johnson.
Clark Johnson. He's also a big director. He directed, I'm 90%, this is an episode where I'm 99% sure of a lot of things. He directed a lot of The Wire.
Did he? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Clark Johnson. Yeah. And you know what? It's funny. I felt like I recognized him, but I didn't put who it was. Okay. Yep. Clark Johnson.
He's in random things now. You see him around, but yeah, he played Meldrick Lewis in Homicide.
Okay.
And that's it for cast.
All right, let's dive into this movie. So the idea behind this movie is that Gene Watson and his daughter are coming in from Northern California to LA to attend a job interview. It seems like he has some kind of job interview.
Right, he's always on the phone.
Yeah, he's got his kid because his wife, who we learn eventually was almost his ex-wife, she had told him she wanted a divorce, has passed away. So we kind of get that idea that, like, that's been an immediate thing in his life.
I think I sort of missed that. When I was doing my research and stuff, because he says to the cabbie, or he says to somebody, "Oh, my ex-wife." But then we find out she's dead. So
there's one point where he says to the cabbie, I think, why are you here? And he said, lost in the family. And that he says, my wife. Right. And then he says she was going to be my ex-wife. She had asked for a divorce.
Oh, so, I must have missed that one little line or something.
Well, that's because that's the only line they give you. They're just, because it doesn't, the whole idea of this movie is it doesn't matter. What matters is the situation. And what matters is yes, her death has made it so he has to travel with his daughter. And his daughter is the impetus for all of the action for him because he's a good dad and he wants to be a good dad. So they travel to the train station. And when they get there, we see Mr. Smith and Mrs. Jones, Walken and Roma Mafia, and they're scouting people. And they're basically just saying, they're looking for someone, and they don't say who they're looking for.
Right.
And they come to the conclusion that they find the perfect couple because this couple's like madly making out like over by the magazine rack. And he's like, that's them. And he says, because he'll do anything for her. I could tell. They go over, they're about to talk to these people, which, we know is not going to be a good thing. And they're foreign. They're French. He even says fucking foreigners.
Yeah. But before that, the lady, Jones, kept picking out older couples. It's like, no, they're too old.
You see, well, one of them she picks out and he's like, he couldn't wait to get away from her.
Yeah.
He's just like, so then he
can read people pretty well.
He's a good people reader, right? He's been doing this a long time. So then he sees Johnny Depp's character and his daughter, and there's some, rollerblade hooligans, and they kind of mess with the daughter a little bit, and Gene Watson defends her immediately, and that turns him on right away. So Manster, what happens at this point?
Yeah. They come over and they tell him, they don't really give him a whole lot of details, but they pretty much detain him. They ask for his identification, and then Jones takes the daughter.
That scene.
And I'm like, how do you let someone just take your kid?
I'm not a parent, so I can imagine what I would do in that situation, but she would not pick up my daughter and I don't care if they flashed a badge real quick, obviously.
Yeah, they flashed a badge, so they look legit.
Yeah.
And, they're not giving him details, but they're taking him away. And, he's like, okay, well, I'll help out whatever's going on. I'm not going to go against you. And he's like, but he does say, look, I'll carry my daughter, but she's already too far away.
Yeah. They get out to a van, a darkened van.
Yeah.
And immediately it becomes like, because this movie has a timeline of 90 minutes to get over with, there isn't a lot of time for 20 minutes of what's happening here. It gets right into it. And as soon as the door's shut and they lock all the locks, Walken basically pulls out a manila folder. And as you said before, tells him, there's a picture of a woman in here. You're going to find this woman at the Bonaventura Hotel. You're going to kill this woman for us. And if you don't, I'm on constant communication with my girl here. We're going to blow your little girl's head off. And at
this point, I'm thinking, why can't you just kill her?
Yeah, well, through the whole movie, I don't want to give away my feelings about this movie, but I understand, I think, and they never even talk about it. I understand the idea is if you're going to assassinate a political figure, it's probably best to try to do it where there'd be no capability of it being tracked back to you. So you use some kind of what do they call that? I almost said, is it pansy or not pansy? Pansy, it means something else. Like, use somebody
Patsy.
that's a patsy. Not a pansy. You use a patsy, and then probably you're going to kill the patsy, kill the daughter, get rid of the bodies.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. Or the patsy's going to go away, and the most use of the word the patsy ever on the pint, by the way. So congratulations to both of us. So I get that, but there was a point where I'm just like, wouldn't this just been easier if Walken, who apparently is like a shadow guy, like he's a criminal, just like shot her at some point, like from far away, which is funny because that's what what happens at the end of the movie is he essentially bypasses the whole plot of the movie, but we'll get there.
Exactly.
We'll get there.
One thing I did like about that scene is, like you said, some guy in rollerblades is harassing his daughter. Like what a tool.
Yeah.
Like an older, like 20-something-year-old guy.
Yeah. An adult.
He wants her teddy bear and like, but it was good, because you get the little setup with Johnny Depp. He's not going to take any shit with someone messing around with his kid. And he, inadvertently knocks the guy over, with the trash can.
Oh, he does it on purpose.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
So it looks inadvertent, but he did it on purpose.
Right,
but
right.
It's set up to show you he's willing to, do something.
Yeah, they make it a good point that he obviously loves his daughter. Like, he's not some dude that's just like, there's probably some dads out there who have been just like, I'm out of here. Like, you could have her. You picked the wrong guy today. Walken's a motherfucker in this movie. He's really bad. He pistol whips his kneecap a few times.
Oh, God.
Every single time Johnny Depp tries to play a game, or not play a game, but like he does obviously through the course of the movie. And as we talk through this movie, we can't get into all the ins and outs because a lot of stuff, there's a lot of starts and stops through this whole movie.
Correct.
Where Depp does things that piss off Walken. I think Walken's most used line in the movie is some variation of, "Are you fucking with me?" He says it, "Mr. Watson, you fucking with me?" He says it like 17 times, but in different ways.
He shadows him everywhere he goes, including the bathroom. He's always there behind him.
It's one of the tense things about this movie is that you're just like, there's nowhere this guy can go, right? And as he gets to the hotel, he takes a cab ride. I wanted to point out a few things. First of all, I think it's important to bring this up. This is clearly, to me, and again, I'm not the guy deep into it, but this is clearly like a Hitchcockian.
That's absolutely part of my notes.
Okay. This movie is trying to be a Hitchcock film, or at least I'll give it credit. It's not trying to be a Hitchcock film. It is definitely wearing its heart on its sleeve, the Hitchcockian stuff. I do want to give credit to some shots in this movie that I thought were pretty good. And one of them is right here at the beginning when he finally does, get away from Walken in terms of like, he tells him, go get a cab and drive over. I like the shot of the cab, like when he's sitting in the back seat and you see the driver, but it's almost like forced perspective. Like it seems like the driver is further away than he would be. Right. Like I felt like that was kind of like working on
that trick of getting closer but pulling away.
Yeah, and I felt like that was supposed to make him like you're supposed to understand how he feels. Like so close but so far away from getting help. And every single time he tries to get help, it gets thwarted. Before he gets in the cab, he approaches a police officer, and Christopher Walken appears out of fucking nowhere.
It always appears out of thin air.
He writes
him in the kneecap.
He kneecaps him multiple times. He, on the back of a business card of his, certified public accountant, he writes a note about what's happening and gives it to the cab driver. When he leaves, the cab driver only looks at the front and is like, "What the fuck do I need an accountant for?" and throws it out the window.
Throws it out.
So this isn't working well. So he gets in. And inside of his little manila folder, he's already been given a gun. He's been given bullets. It's a 6-shooter. He's got an itinerary. And the governor has, Lloyd, do you think the governor has the longest goddamn day of whatever she's doing? There's so many things she has to do.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be her, man.
She even says at one point, "Who scheduled lunch after brunch?"
That's right.
Also did like the scene where he starts to look at the picture in the manila folder of who he has to kill.
Oh, with the big poster in front of him?
Right, because he has not been told it was the governor yet. And then as he's looking at this picture, they unroll the giant like banner of her, and he's
giant banner.
"Oh, fuck. This just went from bad to worse because, look, if you got sent into a hotel to kill Lloyd Green, like that, or John Amenta,
you might be able to figure that one out.
You might get that done.
Yeah.
You might get that done. They might not find our bodies for like 2 fucking days. but the governor is going to be under constant supervision. And that's what happened. He gets on an elevator with her and he's acting a little squirrely. A lot of things start happening.
Right. And right when he's about to say something to her, Walken walks in behind her.
Gets inside. Walken's so slimy in this. At the end of the movie, I wanted to bring this up. At the very end of the movie, when things get kind of physical with Walken, his hair, which is slicked back through the whole movie, kind of comes out, and he looks like, remember from the Three Stooges, remember when Shemp's hair used to come out from the slick, and it was always long in front of his eyes? Exactly. Walken's got that kind of haircut. He looks fucking crazy. He's got a mustache. He just looks nuts. This is awesome Walken right here. This awesome is subdued Johnny Depp and awesome Walken, because he's just a bad dude. He's just a bad dude. All right, so Manster, I'm going to ask you, who are a couple of the people that he ends up meeting that you brought up before that kind of try to help him out in some way, shape, or form?
Well, he ends up, I think he goes right into the crowd, way up close, and he sees her assistant. What's her name again? I've already forgotten.
Gloria Rubin.
Yeah, Gloria Rubin. Oh, Krista. And, he's trying to tell people things, but nobody's listening to him. But then he pulls a gun on her, and surprisingly, she believes him. Because at one point he actually gives her the gun. He's like, "Look here, my task is to kill her, and if I don't, my daughter's going to get killed. So you got to help me out." And instead of going totally crazy and calling security, she helps him. Yeah,
someone gives you the gun. I mean, at that point, they'd have to be really crazy to fucking do that, you know?
Yeah.
He also has realized, too, at this point, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but he also realizes, too, that, like, the head of security is in on this, because he says to her, the security guard made it a point to let him go through, and they show, like, when he wands him.
Oh, that was out. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But right before he meets her, right before he talks to her, like, he clearly doesn't wand where the gun would be.
Turns off the wand. There's a switch, and you see him turn it off.
Right.
As he waves it over his pocket area.
Right. So, and then the guy, what's the guy's name from Silver Bullet? Bill Smitrovich is like the head of security. And, just as he goes to tell him something, Walken, comes over and starts talking to him, and he realizes, fuck, this is like so deep.
Yeah, he goes, "Hey, that guy back there has got a gun." He's like, "Yeah, well, you do too, Mr. Watson." I go,
yeah. And so he meets her. She does not come to a good ending, right? Because
she brings him up to the suite, I guess, up in the St. Bonaventure, and they're going to get to the bottom of it, and they go into the room. I'm feeling like I missed something. Did I miss something big before all this?
No, I mean,
just so many little, like you said, starts and stops.
Yeah, it's hard to talk through a movie like this because a lot of it is just starts and stops. It's him about to, get the guts up to kill her, and then he doesn't, and Walken yells at him again. The movie does that a lot, where it's like, now's your chance, Mr. Watson, and he's like, he goes to do it, and he doesn't do it, and, it gets to a point. Now, there is the point before they go to the room where Walken tells the great story about his, was it Black, Irish, Italian friend?
Oh, yeah, that was great. Oh, I have that whole quote written down.
Go ahead, read that off. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good quote, but
it is long. But tells, like, look, I'm losing patience with you, Mr. Watson.
He's fucked up one too many times.
Yeah, he basically tells a long story about how there was a criminal friend of his that he loved. Like, I love the motherfucking cocksucker, but he's like, he tells a story about how in the end I killed him because
here we go. All right. So I put a bullet in his eye. Then I put 2 more into him just to make sure.
Yeah. So
that was somebody I loved. I loved him. But I got to call and I put him down like a sick animal. So if you got doubts.
I like when he says, if you got doubts, what does he say? He goes, "I'll make gravy out of your little girl, and I'll use it to
season that Black Irish cocksucker's meat."
Yeah. I'm going to find that and put that at the beginning of the episode for the soundbite because I like that scene so much.
It's such a good quote.
They go up to the room. She starts telling the husband character of the governor what's happening. And again, fucking Christopher Walken ends up in the room again. And Gene Watson is realizing that fucking now these people are in on it. The husband of the governor is in on this shit. And right in front of everybody, Mr. Smith fucking pulls a pillow off the couch and puts it in Gloria Reuben's against her chest and blows her away.
Right. They're talking about whether the gun looks real or not.
Yeah.
The old guy, the mystery man, is like, oh, is that a real gun? Looks real to me.
Blow her right the fuck away.
Right away.
So now he tells him again, Mr. Watson, that's your fault. Here's her itinerary. You're going to go and you're going to do this. Now, we mentioned two people. Who's the other person that he starts to get help from and who actually is, not that she wasn't helpful, but is more helpful for him?
I'm forgetting.
Huey, the shoe shine guy.
Oh, Huey. Oh, duh. Yeah, Huey, the shoe shine guy. Because he does get his shoe shine, and it says something like he's deaf. But he's not really deaf. He's hearing impaired a little bit.
It says disabled American veteran on his sign.
Right, that was it.
And Watson is whispering, telling him things. They got my daughter. If something happens, remember the black van. And then when Walken comes over, because he feels like he's talking to him, Walken falls for the he's totally deaf thing.
Right.
And Charles Dutton
and then
plays
Huey
it off.
plays it off with him, because he gets what's going on. He senses like that this is a real deal going on. And when Walken comes behind him, he does turn around and say, oh, I didn't hear you there. I'm deaf. And he plays along with Johnny Depp.
Mr. Smith gets up to have a shoe shine as well and has a complete conversation about everything that's happening.
How stupid was that?
He's this great criminal, yet he's willing to take this guy's word that he's totally deaf, and then just is like, so the plan that we came up with... By the way, the guys that I did this plan with, here are the full names, addresses, and phone numbers. In case you want to know, Gene. So he spills everything, and obviously Huey hears this. So this is the part of the movie, Lloyd, I don't know if you feel the same way. It's a tight thriller. I like, even though there are a lot of starts and stops, and Walken's character, why is he not doing it himself or having someone else do it? And he's really putting up with a lot of shit from Gene. I could deal with all that. When it gets to the point of the movie where it suddenly becomes like the hotel staff is like in on this and everything.
Mm-hmm. Did you find everyone is in on it?
I thought that was a bit much. It was a bit much to, at this point, it's such a big plot that even if the security guards are involved in it, just like, I know people in the world don't love to trust cops, but like in 1995, just call the cops. You know what I mean? Like, if so many people know about it, they're all willing to risk their lives for this dude.
Back up into the governor's suite. When all that happens, Johnny Depp or Gene gets into a scuffle with Mr. Smith.
Right.
Right. And then, which was surprising to me because, he's choking him out and he grabs his gun and Gene shoots Smith. And then you're like, oh my God, hey, I can't believe he just shot him. And then he tries to get away and he's like shooting people left and right, like nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself watching this, is he really some sort of guy that we don't know his background? Like this is what he does? I don't know if you got that thought at all, but I thought for a moment.
I've definitely seen this movie before, so I can't comment on my first viewing. But on subsequent viewings, it's clear it's a dream.
Then it's obviously a dream. But this is where it's very Hitchcockian. They're fighting, and Mr. Smith looks ridiculous with his hair and blood all over him, and throws him over the railing, and you get a total. I don't know, what was that? Vertigo? Like him falling just like 50 stories.
He's falling, but because it's like a movie fall and it's a dream fall, he's falling very slowly. Yet meanwhile, his arms are doing all kinds of like crazy movements and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did. I mean, it's so clearly homage to Hitchcock.
Yeah.
But so is the whole movie. But that just made it super clear.
So every once in a while, we go back to Roma Mafia's character and the daughter's just listening to fucking, I don't know, SpongeBob SquarePants on like on the Walkman, because this is 1995. And every once in a while, he'll call back to her and make the little girl scream. He wants to scare Gene into thinking that they're hurting his daughter. So eventually, a couple of the people from the hotel play some shenanigans games where he switches clothes with the guy from Seinfeld who terrorized Kramer. And, he manages to get a key card from a maid to get into the governor's actual suite, because he wants to talk to her. He wants to tell her what's going on. So Manster, he ends up in the governor's suite and she's taking a nap. He wakes her up, scares the fuck out of her, tells her like, this is what's happening. Your husband's involved. and he makes it very clear though. And I like this. Like, I want to get you out of this. I want to help you, but do not be mistaken. If it comes down to my daughter, I'm going to shoot you.
Absolutely. This is when because I was thinking throughout this, what would I do in this situation? Because I don't want to kill someone,
No, me neither.
It's really against what I believe in. I would, like him, try everything I could to get out of it,
And one of the parts of the movie that like you have to remember if you haven't seen it is because we brought up the fact this is a real-time thriller. Every time he disappears to do something like this, he has to be back in 10 minutes. So he has to switch clothes with this guy. The guy pretends to be taking a dump in his clothes to, to trick Walken into thinking he sees the legs.
His clothes while wearing his clothes.
While wearing his clothes, yeah. And his name tag. So like everything's got that real-time element of like, I've got to be back by, whatever it is, 1:00, 1:30, because that's when her last speech is. And he tells her all that stuff. Like, your husband's in on it and she doesn't want to believe it. Right. And he's like, you've got to cancel this fucking speech. And I think one of the best scenes in the whole movie is when the husband comes to her and, she says, cause she kind of like starts to realize things aren't adding up.
He's acting suspiciously.
She tests him.
She's putting things together. Yeah.
She says to him, send my assistant in. I need her to rewrite something. Yeah. And he says, I sent her on an errand. And first of all, she's like indignant, like, you sent my assistant on an errand.
Right.
And then she's like, because Depp told her she got murdered. And she's like, okay. And then Depp said, try to cancel this thing. He's not going to let you. And she tells him everything. She's like, I got diarrhea. My pussy hurts. Like, she's just like, she goes through she's like, oh my God, I've got a splitting pussy headache. She tells him everything. And he's like, oh, just put some Vagisil on it and, get down there and give the speech, because the speech is where the assassination is going to finally happen. So she knows now, right? Like, he ain't taking pussy headache for a fucking,
no.
Yeah. For an excuse.
Yeah. He wants to kill me. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Which sucks. That sucks. There's gotta be a lot of things that suck in life, but like finding out like your spouse wants to kill you.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things I think that's smart about this movie is that they never really get into the reasoning as to the assassination attempt. They kind of make it a point to say that like, they almost make it seem like that she was a Republican, maybe that like a lot of Republicans trusted and voted in. And then she started getting like liberal or soft. They make a point of that, but they don't try in an 1.5 hour long movie about Johnny Depp trying to shoot someone. They don't make that like
you
a part of the plot.
never get a reason why this plot, is happening.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think
I'm fine with it.
I don't need to know why.
So we get down to the final moments of the movie, and we get to the actual speech she's about to give, and she comes in with her Secret Service men, and Gene is in there, and he's got his gun, and he's sweating up a storm because he knows what he has to do. And Christopher Walken goes up into what looks like the projection booth in this he's in the projection booth of the hotel, and he's kind of got his 6-shooter out, pointing it at her in case I guess Gene doesn't do the job. Boy, I'm struggling to remember what happens.
He shoots the window, right? Gene shoots at the window, right, trying to get him in the booth. And basically that unleashes a panic in the ballroom, and people are like stampeding, and there's a shootout between Gene, I think, and the security people, and everybody's shooting at each other. And it was like you said, right? What's his name? Smith. Doesn't he shoot at the governor? And one of the governor's bodyguards just happens to get right behind her, and he takes the shot. I don't think they know that. Well,
they don't, because he lands on her and he's bleeding all over her. He lives, by the way, if you're concerned about this guy. And then the husband comes over, the governor's husband, and he flips everybody. He flips the two of them over.
Yep.
And she's got blood all over her,
covered with blood on her face. And
he says they did it. And then he says something like fucking shitty to her, like, I don't remember what, but like, you should have listened or something. And she opens her eyes.
All about the plot that just unraveled and how it was successful. He's like,
he does the same thing. He does the same thing Walken did with the shoe shine. He's like, if you want to know the names of the people that were involved, now that you're dead, I'll do the Bond villain thing and tell you. And then she fucking opens her eyes, and he's like, I like this scene too, because he doesn't even like, he just looks like a guy that's like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm caught. We didn't mention, but at this point, Charles S. Dutton is actively helping Johnny Depp by going out to the van. He ends up getting into like a physical fight with
the daughter.
Yeah, he saves the daughter. Roma Mafia shoots him in what we know was his wooden leg, and he knocks her the fuck out with it. And
that's right. Did we
daughter.
Even mention that he had a wooden leg?
No, he's a little deaf, and he says that he says I lost most of my hearing and a wooden leg, both courtesy of like the Army Air Corps or something. So, but yeah, when she shoots him, and you just hear like this cracking sound, and his leg collapses.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a good scene the way he collapses down. It is. Leg bends funny.
And then he pulls the wooden leg piece off and knocks her the fuck out across the face with it.
Well, she keeps trying to shoot him and just keeps missing.
She's the worst.
And I think she like crawls out the window. I don't know what she does, but she finally gets to him. And then, yeah, like you said, he just beats her with his wooden leg.
She sucked. She deserved that. In the ballroom, chaos is breaking out, and Gene chases Mr. Smith down the same flight of stairs. They have this fight. Mr. Smith throws Gene like off the flight of stairs into a pool, like a little like a garden pool inside, and they have like another one of those falling scenes.
Yeah.
I like this shot. There's a shot I liked where the watch comes off of Christopher Walken's character in the melee. Someone steps on it because I don't look too far into things, but
Isn't
I felt
the
like
last scene in the movie when he steps on it.
It's close to the last scene. It's like when all this is happening, and I just felt like that was like time. That was signifying time's up.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
There's also a couple other scenes I wanted to bring up real quick that I thought were pretty good. In the beginning, when he's in the cab, there's a shot that's a reflection. There's a shot of him in the backseat of the cab, and you see Walken's face in the reflection from the van. I thought that was very good. And in the end, when Yui is fighting Roma Mafia, Mrs. Jones, and there's a bullet hole in the glass, she comes up and her face is framed by the bullet hole. I thought that was another good little shot. But essentially, this is where the movie ends. He ends up wrestling with Smith. Smith gets away. I will give this movie credit for something. I don't know if this is rated R or not, but there are some there are scenes in this movie of people either pointing a gun in his daughter's face or shooting at her that I feel like in 2023 wouldn't be in a movie. Like, because there's a scene where he tells Jones to kill the little girl, and she pulls the handgun out and puts it right to this like 6-year-old girl's head.
Right.
That's harrowing. And then at the end, when Smith gets to the car, she hides under the seat, and he's just blasting away at her until Gene comes out.
Yes, she's rolling, dodging, she's doing all her moves.
Yeah, she's got like she's rolling natural 20s to get the fuck out of the way of these bullets.
Did we even mention that that Gene finally shoots him?
Well, that's where we're getting
that's
right there.
That's where we are now. Okay.
Yeah, Gene blows him up. Gene kills him with the handgun, and Smith says to him, he's like, I told you, Mr. Watson, I'd make you a killer.
Yeah.
He kills him, shoots him in the head, and that's the movie ends. It's essentially over.
Yeah,
like
basically that's it.
The only thing we see,
you see the old guy. You see the old mystery man walking, stepping on the watch, and driving away.
Yeah, he gets away. So that's it. That's Nick of Time from 1995. A gimmicked film in the Johnny Depp oeuvre.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the box office, Master.
Show me the money.
Just look at I'm taking too long.
Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock. Money!
So we had a box office of $33 million. Opening weekend of 2.7 million. That was number 9 for the weekend. I'll give you the other.
Wait, hold on one second. Real quick. You said box office of 33 million or budget?
Oh, I'm sorry. Budget of 33 million.
Okay. Cause I know that,
I got that wrong.
I think you did, because when you said that, I'm like, I don't think this did that, because
no, sorry.
Yeah.
Budget of 33 million. And the weekend of November 22nd, 1995, these are all the movies in their first week. Casino, number 5, made 9.9. Money Train came in at number 4, 10.6. And Toy Story came in number 1, 29.1 million. Nick of Time that month or that weekend was number 9.
Yeah, did not do well.
Yeah, and I'll give you the top 5 of the year. Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, number 5, 108. Pocahontas, Number 4, Apollo 13. And number 3, Batman Fever, or you could call it Batman Forever.
Trash.
At number 2 at 184 million. And Toy Story 191 million, number 1. Nick of Time ended up with a grand total of 8.1 million.
Box office poison.
Total poison. Yeah,
And
this could be a Triple T episode, I guess, based on that.
I don't, based on that, yes. I don't think it has a trash reputation in terms of like its content. So. And I can honestly say, I can tell you, if you include my probably, well, whoever I went with, whether it was like an ex-girlfriend or if I paid for whoever that was, there's at least like probably $20 of that $8.1 million that was me. Cause I saw this in the theaters.
Yeah.
I definitely remember seeing this in the movies. This was a point in my life where I went to the movies like fucking every week, like 4 times a week. So
yeah,
I saw a lot of stuff in the theaters in like the 90s.
Yeah. I enjoyed this movie when it first came out. You know, there's another scene that I want to just mention.
Yeah.
As a really amazing film sequence, because of when you think about it, it was, you know, in real time, and they had a scene where they're on the elevator.
Yeah. Yep.
And it goes up 35 floors.
Yep. And there was like 8 people.
You got to realize, all the crew is in that elevator really filming this, and there can't be any reflections in the glass, of some film guy or some lighting guy or whatever. Yeah, I thought it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It is a really good scene. Especially, like it's not a good scene if you just watch it because it's a scene in an elevator. But when you realize that these elevators in this hotel, there's multiple banks of these elevators. Yeah. There's like 12 of them, and they're all on the outside of the building. So they're glass encased. You could see out. And then when you realize that how many people had to, I think I read it was like 8 people, including Walken and Depp. Yeah. The script supervisor, the cameraman, the light person, blah, blah, blah. Some kid that like fucking held a tray of Oreos. They're all in there. They're all in there. So you're right. That is very cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. And apparently the bulk of the movie was shot, using handheld cameras.
Yeah, I read that too. Pretty interesting. All right, let's rate this fucking thing.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
0 to 5. Everybody knows if you listen to the show, that's how we do it. 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever. Quarter and half scale are optional. Manster, with the risk of you giving this a 5, I'm going to let you go first.
You're going to let me go first? That is so dangerous. I've always liked this movie. I've seen it before, and Depp brings something different, an ordinariness to the movie. And it's a pretty tight thriller, and there's intelligence used instead of a lot of action film cliches and all that. You get the shootout at the end, but not throughout the whole thing. I enjoy the time thing of it. It's an hour and a half, and it all takes place in that time. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of wonky stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there that, if you think about it too much, like, well, that doesn't seem real, like you said, with all the hotel guests.
Yeah.
And, it seemed contrived in places. But I think it does manage to be suspenseful. I like the Hitchcock homage. That's pretty good too. I think it's intriguing. Like I said, I wonder what I would do if that was me. Yeah, I like Christopher Walken. He's great in this, and Johnny Depp is nice and ordinary, and I like it. I'm not going to give it a really high score because it's not super great, but it's fun and entertaining. So I'm giving it a wow. I'm thinking I might change my score from what I have written down. I'm going to give it a 2.75 out of 5. Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right, that's fair. All right, that might have been your most deliberated point rating ever. You really were you were all up in arms. Yeah,
I've done a few.
Well, I'm gonna go with a solid 3.
3. All right.
I've always enjoyed this movie. Yes, if you immediately think about the plot, yes, I understand why the bad guys are doing this, because they're just putting not a pansy, but a patsy out there, and that's probably easier for them to get away with. But it probably would have been slightly easier if just one of these thugs had done it. Could have gotten it done a lot faster, and it would have actually gotten done. I agree with you. A note I had was, I like the fact that Depp, as his character would, like you said, you alluded to the fact that you thought for a minute in that dream sequence that maybe he was like he had skills. That's what a movie would do today. Would be the first half of the movie would be, you find out that he's a CPA. And then the second half, you're like, holy fuck, he's SEAL Team 6, and it would be Dave Bautista is Nick of Time. And that's how it would have been. But in this movie, it's not. This is a guy that has to use his fucking head, constantly and also be aware of like the time because he's working on an itinerary. He's an assassin with an itinerary. So I give it a 3. I think, again, it's a good movie for us to start Depptember with because it's Johnny Depp. Look, we're also doing Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Which is Johnny Depp at his like one of his most outrageous roles. And it's a good thing to kind of see the difference in these roles. Like he's playing a very kind of subdued, regular dude in this. So yeah, I give it a 3. I enjoy Nick of Time. It's a fun every couple year watch. Maybe I definitely watched this. I remember, I looked at it in my letterbox. I watched it in 2020. There was a week where I tested negative for COVID, but I had to isolate for like 5 or 6 days while I was waiting. And I watched like 18 movies, and this was one of them. So I've definitely seen this within the last couple of years, and I enjoy it. And again, if you're a Christopher Walken fan, this is a must, I think.
Yeah. Remember how I said, I think I'm going to raise my score?
Oh, you're going to raise your score?
I didn't raise it. I kept it exactly what I have written down. But after you talk it, I think I want to raise it to 3.
I'm going to let you.
Especially with the Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid film. It's I think one of the things about this movie is definitely a film that benefits from a first time view because, you in your head, you're like, they're not going to kill his daughter, but like to see all the things that happen along the way, when you've seen it a few times, you know where it's going. So it's like any other movie, but like this is one that kind of, I think really would benefit on a first time view compared to multiple viewings. So yeah, I'm going to go with 3. You're going to go with 3. All right. So that's it for this week. Instead of the Master telling you everywhere where you could find us, which we talk about all the time, real quick, I just want to give another shout out to all of our Pint insiders. I didn't throw this out last time, but I had some personal stuff going on recently. I put some stuff up on the Insider. I kind of mentioned it on the last episode, the Orca episode. I think I kind of talked a little bit about it, and I got a lot of like direct messages and feedback, from a ton of people, but a lot of them being Pint insiders. And I just want to say thank you, to anybody that reached out, anybody that was concerned, anybody, there's still stuff going on, but I think it's super important to, to come out and say thank you for stuff like that, because that's fucking makes me feel really good.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you very much to everybody, for reaching out, for nice messages and for all that stuff. So we don't always do this because we don't always know what's coming out next week or when we do get the next one out in the next week or so. But the next Depptember episode, so you can go and watch it and get it under your belt before we talk about it, is What's Eating Gilbert Grape. That's right. So we're going from like super ordinary Johnny Depp to kind of like angsty early 20s Johnny Depp. And then we'll finish off Depptember with like kind of 2 weirder Depp roles. So yeah, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? Get ready for some early Leonardo DiCaprio. We're going back to him. Some Johnny Depp banging Mary Steenburgen. Whole bunch of good stuff coming up. I haven't seen this movie. I saw it once in the theaters when it came out, so I'm excited to watch this again because I haven't seen it in a long time.
I saw it in the theaters too.
All right.
And I think one time since.
Yeah, none for me. I remember a really heavy-set mom. I remember DiCaprio. I remember something about a bathtub. It's exciting. We're gonna watch it and talk about it next week. So until next time, Manster, what do we say?
We say, see ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over!
Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!